It is a ceramic product like you might see on a bathtub or a sink. A lot of these 1920s towers have that in the front so they can be illuminated by electric lights at night like they might be at the end of the tour. And we can wave at people, folks. I think the greatest architecture of all is the human spirit. But you can get those hands down before the bridge. The second greatest architecture is the human hand. This is about 106 years old, 1919, named after Jean-Baptiste Pointe du Sable. He was one of the first full-time Chicagoans, and he was a Haitian guy from what we now call Haiti. Back in the 1780s, it was known as Saint Domingo. It was a French crown-owned sugar and slavery colony in the modern-day Caribbean. This guy DuSable was a free black man educated in France. He moved here, married a local lady named Titi Hawa, started a farm and trading post where the Apple Store is at now. And we can see those terracotta tiles there on the Wrigley and the little bit of golden light up on top. In front of us on the right is a big blue glass tower from the year 2009. I always forget the name of this one, but luckily for me, it is labeled, and it's the only one that is labeled. I wonder who that guy is. Every patio here on the Trump International Hotel and Tower is on the same level as a local building. First patio, Wrigley Building. We got some neighbors on top too. Second patio, rocket ship-shaped Mather Tower. The third patio is the same height as the former IBM building, now known as the AMA Plaza, which is a big black box. A lot of these 21st century towers, it is roughly the color of the sky, a little bit darker, a little bit bluer. It can reflect one of those sunsets, like I said. And looking amazing in that western sunset light is the Jewelers building on the left, this wedding cake of a stripy number from 1925, 100 years old this year, designed by Javert and Dinkelberg. Jewelers, as in people who sell diamonds and rubies and pearls. The four corner towers are all water towers, regular old water towers like you might see on the set of West Side Story. That one has got really great lighting right now in that one corner. They didn't have a water pressure that went that high up. The pipes, the wires, the phones, those are all very important parts of skyscrapers. Nobody's going to rent the penthouse if the bathrooms don't work. That one was in Batman Begins as well. Now we're under Wabash. Some of that low sunset is going to get in our eyes. I'm so sorry if you do not have sunglasses. It'll be gone pretty soon. And so looking wild right now are a lot of these buildings in that golden light. Wow, the Jewelers is just incredible. If you got a nice camera, check that out. That style, the idea was every inch should be beautiful down to the elevator buttons and the light switches. On the right is the Corn Cob Towers from 1967, known as Marina City. Corn is very important to Chicago. The corn sun is shining. Corn is not just food, it is beef, it is dairy, it is pork, it is money, it is gasoline, it is alcohol, stocks and bonds, and for these people, corn is home, sweet home. And now we're under State Street, as Frank Sinatra called it, that great street, where I just gotta say, they do things they don't do on Broadway. Hey, one of those things I do not do on Broadway is boat parking. 1967, Marina City was made as a city within a city. This was the first residential tower on the whole main branch of the river, and people are eating steak. Corn-fed beef, corn-fed dairy, corn-fed everything in there. Hey, this was initially paid for by a pension fund from a janitors union called SEIU. They are still mostly owners. There's a saddle-shaped building in the middle called the House of Blues. That is a concert venue co-founded by Dan Aykroyd, the Thin Blues Brother. Hello. They've got 24/7 valet parking, which is great for me, so nobody parks their car on my head. If you want to watch someone drive a car off of that parking garage into the water, though, there's a 1980 movie where Steve McQueen does it called The Hunter, and there's like a 2010 movie called Rampage where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson does it. And now we're under Dearborn, and smell that beef. The beef is what makes the water flow in Chicago. This is also a very beef-centric place. I'm so sorry if you love cows or if you don't eat this stuff. People are loving the River Walk. The River Walk is a public park on the south branch of the main, south bank of the main branch of the river. The buildings look great too. They won't look like that at the end. The Brutalist 55 West Wacker concrete and the old 1991 United Airlines building, which is white rocks and blue glass. That sun goes down, that bounces in pretty cool ways. The River Walk was first proposed in 1905. We built it very quickly in 110 years in 2015, and now we love it. The water had to get clean for the Riverwalk. The 1972 Clean Water Act was very important for making this a fun place to hang out. On the right is a 7-story red brick warehouse called the Reed Murdoch Center. This is an old food warehouse. You can tell from the tiles look like seeds and grasses, and they make the Encyclopedia Britannica here, as it says above the clock tower. Great example of adaptive reuse, which is what it's called when you change the purpose of a building. Remember that part of Chicago history. Yeah, back at you, man. Everyone who waves at me, these are all my first cousins. This is the loop south of us. We might see a train, we might not. These are train tracks. The loop is a big circle of train tracks. The trains come in every direction. They do a big circle, then they go right back where they came from. I'm sorry, man, you had your moment. There's a train. I hear one. Which way is it coming from? That's right. It is a Friday. That is the universal language is going. Woo! Yeah, thank you so much. I'm a popular guy. On the right is with 1930, this was the biggest building in the world. The Merchandise Mart is a warehouse of warehouses and a showroom of showrooms, 4 million square feet or 400,000 square meters. This was made right at the center of the Great Wheel of American train tracks as the center of one of our sort of warehousing industries. These styles are called Art Deco and Egyptomania. Art Deco is inspired by machines, factories, assembly lines. Egyptomania is inspired by fantasies of ancient Egypt that came out of King Tut's tomb in 1922. This particular Egyptomaniac is a guy named Marshall Fields of the Marshall Fields department store. He had to sell the place in 1945 to Joseph P. Kennedy from Massachusetts, father of future President John F. Kennedy. The Kennedy family ran the joint until the 90s for 50 years when they sold the spot. The Merchandise Mart became offices, and it still is. But the Kennedy family, they were wise with those big heads. They had a feeling the parking lot was going to grow in value, and it sure did. And right across Franklin Street, the old Merchandise Mart parking lot became known as Wolf Point East. It is the 3 blue glass towers on the right. But this is where the North Branch meets the South Branch and the Main Branch. Welcome to Wolf Point, folks, the heart of the river, at the heart of the city, at the heart of the country, at the heart of the world. And now for the first time ever, the heart of the Roman Catholic Church. And 1 billion faithful, including the whole Kennedy family, the landlords of these ones. You like that transition? The Kennedys built these beautiful Catholic towers between 2015 and 2022. They are good mirrors. They get a little bit purple at night. When the windows open, that's going to be residential. The windows don't open, that's an office building, like the Salesforce Tower, the middle one and the tallest one, which was designed by Cesar Pelli, a star architect from Tucumán, Argentina, who passed away before they finished in 2022. The sunset is on our right. We can see those sort of reflections off the windows, and we're going to see this big blue glass kind of pastry-shaped tower from 2015 that is almost the exact same shape as the box that the McDonald's apple pie comes in. This is America. We love McDonald's, also an Illinois company. My cousin Steve works here. He already went home, so I'm safe, but Steve likes to send me photos of me at work from other people's phones to scare me, and it always works. I'm always terrified. That arch there is not for apple pie. That's for the Blue Line. Additionally, over New York, in addition to our Holy Father, the Pope of Rome, we have a train that goes straight from downtown to the airport. New York's got, they're still working on that one, but that's maybe a road back from O'Hare. 2015. We're going to go onto Lake Street here into the South Branch of the river, where I was born, where my mother and father were born, and most of our there's 26 cousins now. And we're going to go under here. We might see some of these happy hour party animals. We can wave. They might wave back, but we can also wave at our own reflections. My favorite part about this building is my own face. You can see me waving. Sometimes when people wave back, what if you wave at your own reflection? Well, maybe you're already waving. You might find your best friend in the big city is that person in the mirror, me, Charlie, from Shoreline Sightseeing. Howdy, folks. We're going to smell a little bit more beef here. I can always tell where the wind is blowing from where the beef cloud is on the river. And they're cleaning, and small Cheval back there is one of those nice chefy cheeseburgers. If you happen to be a cheeseburger eater, you came here for some of that beef, that's a good option. That's better than the street meat if you got a sensitive tummy. You know, we make beef for all sorts of people. Hello. And there's that. I'm being tempted by the smell of other people's dinners. Here it is right now. And so on our right, we can see a 1990s tower that says Boeing on it. Boeing makes jet planes, have ever since 1945. Boeing is not a Chicago company. We can take no credit for their successes or their failures. They don't even work here anymore, so I can say what I want to about them. But I won't. I respect all of our partners here. The top of this building looks like a salt shaker, and that's a clue for who did build it. This was the Morton Salt Building, and they were trying to be cute. If the architect is trying to be funny, you might be looking at a 1990s architecture. But Morton's had to move across the street. They are still around. They still have a presence here. They still sell that salt, but it's very expensive to have your own tower. It's a little cheaper to move into somebody else. And that corn sun is just breathtaking right now. And you can see the shadows are thrown all over town. You can see the cage on top of the south part of the Boeing/Morton Salt Building. And this is the part of the tour that I like to call the Valley of the Pharaohs. Hey! Did someone get married? I can't hear. Maybe just school's out. I don't know. School starts back up here in 4 weeks. I call this part of the tour the Valley of the Pharaohs because of the Egyptomania. We got two massive 1929 Egyptian-inspired temples of commerce that could only have been 1929. We were not making these things, throne-shaped opera houses in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s. This is the opera house, the big stark part with no wall, with no windows. That's the back wall of the stage. That's how big the sets and the curtains are. 2,600 seats. I used to date a lot of opera singers. No, I dated one opera singer, but she was a whole lot of women. And I saw her do the La Bohème by Puccini, and she was in a non-singing role in The Marriage of Figaro by Mozart. This building is a song of corn and grain. The interior is crazy. These are corn and grain warriors. They also have corn and grain kings and queens and princesses, very fairy tale style, Midwestern Gilded Age. 1930s, we made no office building in Chicago. There was a Great Depression afoot. 1940s, we made no office building in Chicago. There was a World War called World War II. 1950s, we started making these things on the right. Not white folks, black box modernist office buildings, steel plus glass plus nothing. A box of boxes by the train. That's what big buildings and big companies as well as their workers were looking for. This style was pioneered by a German refugee in Chicago named Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. He came from the Bauhaus School, which was persecuted by Hitler, so he had to run away to IIT, the Illinois Institute of Technology. These tracks are at our level. They are active train tracks for Union Station, the sort of beating heart of the North American railway system. Back in the day, the East Coast train stopped in Chicago. The West Coast train started in Chicago. This was the spot where everybody had to transfer. So Gateway Plaza number 2 is the one that's coming up next. This is from 1966. This is 27 stories tall. This is as tall as just the antennas are on the Sears Tower, which is of course visible inside the window reflections. One day, this is a dream and a promise of mine, I am going to get on a train at Union Station and go to New York Grand Central in 4 hours. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be this year, most likely. But they got those trains overseas. I demand them in my life now. Until then, I got the Blue Line in O'Hare. Beautiful pigeons, and that's the actual train station between the towers from the 1920s. Union Station is a nice place. The 1950s was sort of the beginning of the end for our beautiful trains. A lot of cars came along. We are still in the age of the automobile, but an awful lot of people take the train every day in Chicago. The CTA runs 24 hours a day. And now we're under Adams Street. On the right, that's the actual train station entrance, and in our little office building history lesson, where in the 1970s, this big white box is a black box plus white rocks. Same deal as those ones that would look identical if not for the white cladding, which is all rectangular white concrete. This is the international style, they call it. It may be the most uninspiring design on the whole river, but that's what the customer asked for. So they nailed it. You could put this anywhere and they'd say, yeah, that looks about right. Next to that is the little black box, which has the bakery and the gym there. You can just go back and forth for your whole career if you want to. I'm sure a lot of people do. It is gym season now, but the bakery's right around the corner. Right across from there is Gateway Plaza number 4 from the 1980s. We can see those active train platforms at our level right now as well. Green blue glass, gently flowing with the river itself. the best view we're going to get of the actual train platforms and the people getting on and off, as well as some rocks. Some big birds hang out on these rocks. You can see that sort of that mirrored glass with, what is that inside the reflection? Why, that's a big map. We are here. You can see the Y-shaped river confluence at the top. The red Lego brick looking thing is this building. The little bump on the left of it, that's the map. We did not used to talk about this building, but then they put a map on themselves, and as you can see, they put themselves on the map. Now there's something to talk about. We started doing the riverboat tours in the year 2000, so a lot of the buildings designed or redesigned after 2000 were made for your eyeballs on this boat. Lucky you, right? This is all just for you. On the right, that building was in the Dark Knight. This is a 1930 warehouse of warehouses. It says United States Postal Service on the front. This is the old post office, but you might recognize it from its Chicago Hollywood career when it played a bank at the beginning of the Batman movie from 2008, The Dark Knight. Love the wildflowers down here, though. They zip-lined the Joker and his Joker gang across the street, and then they did the shotgun mask thing. And now it's a nice place to work. Uber, Walgreens, PepsiCo. It took $1 billion to get this officed out. Now it's a nice facility. My friend Mark works here. He does not like his job, but he loves the building. That's what's keeping him here. He loves the frisbee golf on the roof. He hates being in IT. He's jealous of my boat job, but there's no such thing as a dream job. I got good days and bad days too. Hello, we're gonna go under that highway as that light disappears and bounces off all those glass things. This is the interstate. New type of steel, new type of glass. Where did Chicago's factories all go? They left on the highway. For initially, we were at the center of the Great Wheel of American Railroads in the 1950s. Along comes the Great Neck of American Interstates with no center. A lot of companies left and never came back. This highway goes southwest to Kansas City, Missouri. East of here, this is a South Lake Street called Ida B. Wells Drive. Ida B. Wells was a journalist. She came to Chicago in 1893 to talk about the World's Fair, to write about it. No plans to stay, but she found a community, she found an audience, she found a vibe, and she found a home. The big street is named after Ida B. Wells because she was a pioneer of the Great Migration, when millions of black Americans moved from rural places in the South, like Mississippi, to urban places in the North, like Chicago, between 1900 and 1970. A lot of what makes Chicago, Chicago to this day, the blues, the jazz, the food, the fashion, the rock and roll, the gospel worship, and a whole lot of people came up from the Mississippi Delta on trains or cars and settled in neighborhoods on the south and west sides, which were walkable to factories. It's a whole city of neighborhoods. Every single neighborhood has its own architectural language. You're basically seeing 2 neighborhoods today, and every single building is readable like a book if you know exactly how. Especially houses of worship often tell stories that go back decades, centuries, and millennia. And this is the part of the post office that is still a post office. 2.5 million people live in the city. 7.5 million people live in the suburbs. Everybody's got mail. Everybody needs fresh water. Everybody needs to get rid of their dirty water. And underlying a lot of those needs are invisible engineering projects, much like the river itself. This looks just like we're in the Mississippi Delta, right? It looks like almost like we're in Huckleberry Finn in Hannibal, Missouri, except for those walls of this particular river. This is not a river, right? This is more like a moat or a canal or like a water trap at a golf course or something at Disney World. That's not too far off. This is a big, long, man-made aqueduct. This was made with dynamite in the 1890s. Before the 1890s, we had a small river that flowed into the water in the lake where we get our drinking water. We still get our drinking water from the lake, but back in the 1890s, these city-sized slaughterhouses, the very first modern industrial factories in the world, were poisoning us. They were mucking up the water with, raw sewage, beef, rotten beef, sulfur, gasoline, all the stuff that had not killed before was now killing innocent people in Chicago in large numbers. It became clear that to save Chicago from itself, we had to use dynamite to explode the river by 500% in width and blow up 45 miles of Illinois between here and Joliet, and a big, long, gradual downward slope because water flows downhill. Thereby, this had not been done before. It was not a sure shot it was going to happen. Sucking like a straw all of that raw sewage, rotten beef out of our drinking water and sending it downstream where it belongs to a place called St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis did not like that. They tried to sue us. They failed to sue us. This is Chicago. We invented paying judges in this town. Supreme Court is no exception. No wrongdoing admitted. Greatest city of all time. Totally undefeated. Next, 1980s. Look at River City. Looking amazing in that corn sun. More corn anatomy from Mr. Bertrand Goldberg. This can be seen as the sequel to Marina City. Hey, and the neighbors say hi too. This is concrete ribbed. Mr. Goldberg was not just thinking about the Chicago of 2025, he was thinking about the Chicago of 3025 and 4025. They have Roman buildings made of concrete that are from 2,000 years ago. Why not Chicago? And he was thinking maybe in the far future they will want better raw materials to work with, right? So he was thinking very, very big, almost utopian. This was going to cover the entire former train yard all the way down to Roosevelt Boulevard, that arch bridge with multiple corncob towers, hundreds of thousands to 1 million plus units made to survive for decades and centuries and millennia. That did not happen. That was sort of a very ambitious pitch for the money partners, and they did not feel like taking that risk. But this is now a very residential neighborhood. At night, if we are still here when it is dark out, we will see a lot of these lights on because people are home. More people live here than necessarily around the river because these are mostly made to live in rather than as investments like a lot of the loop stuff is. Hey, what's up? On the right, looking beautiful in that slightly orange sunlight. This building looks like a big iPhone charger. It was in some ways the iPhone charger to a young nation in 1905. This was a coal-burning power plant for Union Station, our main big train station, and now it's empty. What would you do with this building? If I gave it to you as a personal gift, now that we're friends, maybe a school, maybe a hospital, maybe a rock climbing gym, one-bedroom apartment. It is not in a walkable neighborhood. The future is wide open. Maybe it'll be adaptively reused, but they have estimated it would cost $200 million to safely demolish because of all the poison carbon up in there. Sometimes we see coyotes in this grass here. This is a little bit of the native prairie. This is a sort of fallow, temporarily abandoned construction site where the local tall grass has taken it back. It was not so long ago, only about 18 decades, that every building had a tall grass prairie there instead, and it was covered in about 160 million American buffalo, the bison, from here all the way to the Rocky Mountains, north of Saskatchewan, Canada, and south of the Gulf of Mexico. This is the south side. We came here for the sunset tour. On the left there is a ballpark that was put in the distance. Behind the ballpark, you can see pre-fire houses over there. That's one of our pre-fire districts that was not touched by the Chicago fire in 1871. But this ballpark was built by the White Sox, one of our beloved the South Side baseball team. Pope Leo XIV, the Holy Father, is a White Sox fan. They happen to be, and I'm not judging them, they happen to be currently one of the worst baseball teams in the history of the game, including all countries, all ages, all decades. But maybe the Pope can send them from some angels in the outfield, or maybe they can just hire a couple baseball players. That'd be a good start. And they can do that before they get their tax-free stadium right here next to the bridge. And that is a powerful orange sun, beautiful seabirds too. We still got a lot of Amtrak tracks. The highway didn't replace every single train, just a lot of them. And so this is still a train-based economy, including the freight for the most part. We can see this in front of us are two massive one-piece railway bascule bridges. Bascule just means like a seesaw in French, B-A-S-C-U-L-E. Most of the ones we have seen have opened up on two sides, so there's a half counterweight on each side, usually hidden underground, and these ones have full counterweights that are exposed in the open air. They're easy to see from the highway, especially when they're both raised. These are the Amtrak bridges. They're both about 200 feet long, or 66 meters, and built between 1903 and 1909. And a lot of these tunnels are entrances to the massive underground, hello, not today, sorry, that guy was hoping for a honk. Nope, we don't do that here. It can be a little bit powerful. In the 1870s, a lot of the city burned down. That fire was north of here, but it sort of swallowed. That's one of the reasons we call this place the second city. We are not only city number 2 to New York still, in a lot of very important categories, but because the first city was sort of a wooden, dry cowboy city that got burned down by the Great Fire in 1871. That orange light is just totally charming. That's one of those things that just looks great in person. You can take all the photos you want, and it might not pop in exactly the same way. The western sunsets are historically important to Chicago because the whole West, very literally, I'm not even being metaphorical here, the American West came out of Chicago. It came off of the railway tracks. The railways all led to Chicago. That is not just a metaphor, that's for real. Cowboys could maybe make their own furniture sometimes. They were not making their own knives. They were not making their own bathtubs. They were not even making their own hats. All that stuff, for the most part, came out of the catalog from Montgomery Ward or Sears, both Chicago-based warehousers. And wow, these are really wonderful, massive Rust Belt era architecture, just massive, Titanic. And those massive, you can see the Wrigley buildings, the Wrigley Field style ivy going down there as well. On the right, we got a yurt. This is for salt, for the that kind of Mongolian tent style shingle building. That's for road salt storage. And behind that is a building that says Continental Paper Grading Co. One of the older ones we're going to see from the year 1910. That company still exists in the suburbs. They're a paper recycling and manufacturing company. But now this is a lot of artists. You can see all the different surgery that's happened here. That sort of massive scar there. An awful lot happens in 115 years. This is Pingtown Park. This is part of Chicago's Chinatown. You can see that's the Red Line train heading up there, heading southbound. It's going to keep on going past the Sox Field and going and going and going. We got a little bit Chinese style architecture in the Chinatown parks. But I want to talk about the Continental Paper Grading building. This is all glass bricks. We use a lot of these in our residential buildings. I have those in my own shower. It lets the sunlight in, but it doesn't let the neighbors see the important parts. And we got a lot of that in our sort of regular old people housing, right? The residential places, many of which are 2 or 3 flat buildings. And that sunset color goes all around us. Now, this big building on the right is from the year 1913. There's a helicopter behind it. It's a former a manufacturing floor for the garment industry, and now it's been taken over by artists and hipsters and stuff. Where the Chicago Film Archives are here, this is also where I do my vintage furniture shopping. The first weekend of every month, all Chicago's biggest vintage furniture suppliers come in. You can get like $1,000 table for like $100. And that is, we're in Pilsen now. This is a Latino, formerly Czechoslovakian neighborhood. This is where the 1914 version of the state of Czechoslovakia was founded, and or the Kingdom of Bohemia, I believe. This is more of these, New York Chinatown has a lot of these same pagoda style roofs, which are made on purpose. That has nothing to do with real stuff, but that's sort of the image that people would like to see. And so that's how you can get tourists to come down to a place. This tradition kind of goes all the way back to the Chicago World's Fair of 1893, which was on the south side, but in Jackson Park near like 53rd Street. This is like 18th Street near the University of Chicago. And that massive lift bridge is the southern terminus of our southbound journey. This is a really cool bridge from the year 1915. It is not a bascule bridge, it's a lift bridge, so that central span works like an elevator. It's surprisingly quiet, but that big house in the middle is so evocative. I would love to have a party there. You're all invited. I'm sure it would not be safe. We will not have insurance. But just imagine that with the lights going crazy. I'm not even like a house music person, but house music was, after all, invented on Chicago's south side. This is kind of where Chinatown meets Bridgeport. This is sort of a meeting of neighborhoods. This is one of those massive supermarkets where they've got a lot of great frozen food. People have all sorts of lives down here. People from most countries on the globe have little micro communities in Chicago. We're turning around here. What's up, fellas? We're slowly cleaning this river up. People sometimes ask if the fish are poisonous. The fish are not poisonous. Some of the New York fish are, but this is not salt water, this is fresh water. I do not swim in the river, like I said. I don't even take kayaks, but I have eaten fish before, and it did not kill me, as far as I know. These are plum trees, weeping willow trees. A lot of this landscape architecture goes back to a guy named Frederick Law Olmsted, who also did Central Park and Prospect Park in New York, where I used to work. This is a lot of just like curtains made out of rolling hills. that conceal local, they hide the local streets and buildings and stuff. He also designed Jackson Park, which I was talking about before. That was the staging location of the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. A World's Fair is sort of like the Olympics crossed with Disney World times 1,000 before that stuff existed. The one of Chicago in 1893 was when we decided to throw the biggest party in the history of human civilization. That's what it was. The Museum of Science and Industry is the only building surviving from that fair, but there was 150 miles of exhibits. We very literally invented the 20th century for that fair. We invented the Ferris wheel. We invented chocolate brownies. We invented freeze-dried vegetables. Ever heard of those? We invented, what else? The zipper. I bet you're wearing one of those right now. We also invented Pabst Blue Ribbon, or at least we gave them a blue ribbon, and it was an attempt at world peace, really. All the most important people were invited, at least according to the organizers. They sort of rerouted all these railroads to go directly to that South Chicago fairground. And that was, it was really an attempt at world peace, which might seem a little naive now. World War I was right around the corner. We've had a lot of terrible wars ever since. But what it really was, functionally, was the start of Chicago as a truly international town, where we started getting immigrants and community members from all over the world. And it was the start of Chicago celebrating its steel-framed architecture, which had only begun the previous decade in the 1880s. And you can even feel it's a little bit quieter on the south side. We got a little bit more greenery around here. My favorite birding in the whole city is down at Jackson Park. They have great blue herons that hang out down there. It's like a 6-foot blue stork. And that sort of glow is disappearing. We can see it go directly through some of those warehouse windows. That is the West. The American West, which, like I said, came out of Chicago in a very literal sense. That World's Fair, if you took U.S. history in the USA, was where the frontier was closed by a guy named Frederick Jackson Turner, and that was the beginning of the 20th century, and in some ways the modern age. It is a Friday. That sort of orange glow is disappearing. This is the South Loop there on the right. You might notice that the high rises go all the way up and down the lake shore. There's 18 miles of lake shore, and that is all covered by parks, as well as a highway called Lakeshore Drive. It's a little bit cooler by the lake. That can be useful, and when it's like 95 degrees outside, but that is where a lot of that sort of development goes on. Some of the first high rises and skyscrapers in world history were right here on the south side of Chicago, Illinois. At the end of Roosevelt, that bridge after this one is Chicago's museum campus. That's at Roosevelt and the lake, where we have our planetarium, our aquarium, the field museum, which is where we have the dinosaur bones, and Soldier Field, where the Bears play football. That was the staging location of the 1933 World's Fair, the one that Walt Disney attended as a little boy and was very inspired by. I guess he wouldn't have been a little boy, he would have been a young man though. So this greenery is sort of what a lot of the state looked like not so long ago. Back in like Lincoln's time, a lot of these rivers were really good like fishing, and we kind of ruined it when we reversed the flow of the river and we sent all of our sewage downstream. We have more modern ways of managing the water now, but it could always be cleaner. I saw Paris has their river clean enough to swim in. We are not there yet, but it would be really great to catch up. So it is the edge of the train. What's up, man? A lot of these train yards back in the day were also hobo jungles during the 1930s, where people from all over the world would gather, tell stories on like garbage fires and stuff. But this is a lot of recreation around here. I was talking about the Sox before. This is going to be future sort of high rises probably. But a lot of these construction projects, they're sort of people or partners from all over the world. It can be a little bit dicey. Who really knows? A lot of those newer stuff over here are not far from McCormick Place, and what Wintrust Arena is where the Sky play. That's our women's basketball team, WNBA. I love this Sky. They were a little better last year, but they don't have to win for me to love them. It is a very cool, very specific vibe. I was not super into it, but my brother and his girlfriend are super fans, and I was initiated. That's a nice little spot. That's also where a lot of the really good architecture from the late 1800s made by black communities is. the sunshine disappears, and as over the next hour or so, the sky will get totally black, and a lot of these buildings will completely change their appearance. We are not, on our left there's a radio tower that looks like it's coming out of an LA Fitness. That radio tower is on the site of the Chicago Fire Academy on DeKoven Street. They were being cute about it. They built the Fire Academy, the school for firefighters, on the spot where the fires began in 1871, Mrs. Catherine O'Leary's house. Mrs. O'Leary was blamed for the fire because she was a vulnerable Catholic Irish immigrant. Her cow got blamed for the fire because it's funny to blame a cow for killing 300 people. I would personally blame the city planners for the fact that we didn't have any city planners. The Chicago of 1871 is a wooden town. It is a cowboy town. A wooden town on the prairie. You don't have to be a genius to know what's going to happen. It's going to burn. The prairie burns every year. That's part of how it works. They knew that in the 1830s and the 40s, 50s, 60s. And 70s too. Back in 1871, Chicago was the #1 lumber market in the world. Also the #1 corn market, the #1 grain market, the #1 pig market, the #1 cow market on planet Earth, all because of that great wheel of railroads. So one thing led to another, and some stuff burned down. 300 people died, 18,000 buildings gone. The fire crossed the river 2 times. Think about the pollution levels we would have to see for me to light a match and have the whole thing go up in flames. We learned that lesson the hard way. One thing led to another. It caught. A lot of that was rough stuff, but we came back learning that lesson the hard way. We came back putting down a grid system. We came back putting down in 1893. The first one was even bigger than this. The first Ferris wheel was 90 meters or 270 feet wide. Every car was a 60-person Pullman Palace train car. And guess what? That's the $1 million view. They tell me you are wicked, and I believe them, for it is true. I have seen the painted women luring the farm boys under the gas lamps at night. And they tell me you are crooked. And my answer is, it is true. I have seen the gunmen kill and go free to kill again, and they tell me you are brutal. And my answer is, on the faces of women and children, I have seen the marks of wanton hunger. And having answered so, I turn once again to those who sneer at this my city, and I give them back the sneer and say, come and show me another city with head lifted, singing so proud to be alive and coarse and strong and cunning, flinging magnetic curses. Excuse me, sorry about that. I got too into it. Excuse me. Flinging magnetic curses amid the toil of piling job on job. Here is a tall, bold slugger set vivid against the little soft cities. Fierce as a dog with tongue lapping for action. Cunning as a trapper pitted against the wilderness. Bareheaded, shoveling, wrecking, planning, building, breaking, rebuilding. Under the smoke, dust all over his mouth, laughing with white teeth. Under the terrible burden of destiny, laughing as a young man laughs. Laughing even as an ignorant fighter laughs who has never lost a battle. Laughing and bragging that under his wrist is the pulse, and under his rib, the heart of the people. Laughing the stormy, husky, brawling laughter of youth, sweating, half-naked, proud to be hog butcher, tool maker, stacker of wheat, player with railroads, and freight handler to the nation. Carl Sandburg, 1914. Woo! Thank you. That went well that time. Sorry about that. That has not happened before. We love that poem here. One time, this is a true story, I did that and a lady with white hair was filming me. It turned out that was Carl Sandburg's granddaughter, and she sent the video to her whole family group chat. So all the surviving relatives of my favorite poet were watching me do the poem and telling me which words I got wrong. I don't get them all wrong that often anymore. We email now. We have a fun relationship. Hey, good to see you, folks. We have talked about Chicago's past. We have talked about Chicago's present. But what, Charlie, what is going to happen in Chicago's future? People beg of me. Well, I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an architect. I'm not even a full-time employee. I do this job 25 hours a week. But my expert opinion is the future is bright, brighter than the western setting sun. Guess what? We got 20% of the fresh water in the world in our backyard. I think that might come in handy in the next 200 years. Just call it a hunch. It might seem like our problems are big and impossible to solve, but guess what? We eat impossible for breakfast. We were doing the impossible on the day you were born. We will be doing the impossible on the day you check out. Life is short. We do not have enough time with our favorite people, our favorite buildings. So please, if you're worried about Chicago, my advice is don't worry about Chicago, and Chicago won't worry too much about you. How about that? Okay, guys, we got to be sitting down just when we hit the harbor wall. That's one of those rules for the Coast Guard, so nobody hits their heads. Thank you for that. And just stay seated, sit, and stay seated until the ramp comes down. Folks, the great Chicago writer Nelson Algren once said, "Loving Chicago is like loving a woman with a broken nose. You may find lovelier lovelies, but never a lovely so real." It's been lovely these past 75 minutes. I hope it has been real. And please sit. Thank you for sitting. My friend Adrian likes to say there's only one city better looking than Chicago, and that's Chicago from a different angle. You saw it from these angles today, and now you can have the rest of your life to see it from the north, south, east, and west, from the sky, from the lake, from the land, planes, trains, automobiles, and every single floor from the basement to the top. The real secret, the best parts of Chicago were not even on this tour. That's up to you. You gotta find it. I can't help you. You gotta go the rest of the way yourself. Around here, if you want to eat, Billy Goat Tavern is pretty good. That's like a classic journalist hangout. Lower Michigan Avenue, north of the Wrigley Building, and the North Tower of the Wrigley Building, there's a Lou Malnati's Pizza. Don't get the deep dish if you're not hungry. You will feel sick. This is River North here. If you want to get to the Bean, I would walk down Michigan Avenue. This is a beautiful night. I hope you have a great weekend. And rest your weekend, rest your life in and out of Chicago, Illinois. I will see you on those staircases, and I hope you see me too. Thanks for coming. I'm Charlie. You can leave us nice reviews online if you want. Bye-bye. Do we do boarding photos? If we do those are available for purchase. If not, then they are not. This is going to be the end. I'll see you at the top of those stairs. Thank you for staying seated. I just like to keep talking until the very end so nobody gets that little jolt, and I will see you up there. Okay, now I'm really done. We got to keep the traffic moving. If you got longer questions, just hang out until we're done. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Good night.
All right, everybody, please remain seated for just one moment. Give my crew time and space to get that ramp on board. Give us a little time to settle these boards. While you wait, so let's have another big round of applause for Charlie. Hey, Charlie. Also take a look around your seats. Look at any person, bags, cameras, cell phones, anything you brought on board. Take it off with you. Look for the trash as well. If you're going to find a trash can right next to that ramp, you can throw everything as you leave. And if you took boarding photos, check those out at the top of the stairs. All right, that ramp is now in place. Feel free to stay there. Thanks for the message if you watch yourself on the ramp. Charlie, be waiting in the top of the stairs.
Wait, does this look sick?